Okay, you're on.
Good morning. My name is Karen Einstein, and I'm with the Independent Publishers of New England, and we're doing a Thursday series called Ask the Experts, when we speak with different experts from around New England who work in different areas of independent publishing about their involvement in the industry. Today, we're speaking with Glenna Collett and Jenny Putnam. Glenna has been, they're both designers, book designers, and Glenna's been working in the book design industry since 1974. And she has recently retired, and she co-authored a brilliant book entitled Book Design Made Simple. She worked in textbook design for quite a few years, and she's done over 100 books in the educational field, and then changed and switched to working for self-publishers, and she's worked on dozens of books in that field. So we're very grateful that she's here with us today. Jenny Putnam is a board member, and we're very grateful for that. She's got some really wonderful ideas to bring the independent publishers of New England forward and create a very dynamic community. She's the owner of Putnam Design, J. Putnam Design, and she specializes in the design for books, both the covers and the interiors. She's been in the publishing industry for almost 15 years now, and in the independent publishing industry for the last 2 years. She also, like Glenna, worked in the educational field for quite a while. So with that introduction, welcome, Jenny and Glenna. And my first question for you is, why do people need a design for their books? What do you say?
Jenny, you've got a great answer for that. You want to spell that one out?
Yeah, I'll start. The first thing that I can say is that you can be the greatest writer in the world, but if you do not have a design background, then you are not going to be able to design your book yourself. And I don't mean to sound elitist by saying that. I think it's simply a fact. We all have our strengths, and it is very important, I feel, to work with a professional designer to have your book done in order that you're putting out the most professional product that you possibly can. I feel strongly that it's wonderful that everyone has access to be able to publish for themselves these days, but doing so can create a situation where you may be inadvertently putting out into the world something that isn't the best that it could possibly be if you're not working with professionals to help you kind of birth your book as it is.
Right.
Glenna?
Yes, I agree, and I think that anybody looking at your book can tell within 1 or 2 seconds whether it was professionally designed or not, and 2 seconds is about as much time as anybody will give your book if they are looking at it online or in a bookstore. If you don't catch them within the first 2 seconds, there's no hope for you. They won't turn over, look at the back of the cover, and especially the cover design should be professionally done. And then many people will not notice if an interior is professionally done, but it depends how bad it is. I mean, sometimes it's very obvious that an interior of a book has not been designed, and people will just slam it shut, and that is the end of their interaction with your book. So it's very important, and it's very obvious.
Yeah, I want to point out also that especially in the case of nonfiction books where there's any kind of pedagogy involved, you really need to work with somebody who understands how to present a hierarchy of ideas, and this holds true for trade books and fiction books as well, but it's especially important for any business owner or teacher who is trying to get a point across. If your information is not presented in a clear, easy to understand format, people are going to get, they're not, your central ideas aren't going to get through to them. And so that's just another point that I wanted to make.
That's a great point, and actually I worked in the field of education for decades, and that was a really important, the design of the book was almost as important as the contents. And when we were choosing books, I would say the design played 50% of a role. A book could be really well written, but if it's just laid out in a way that the students are overwhelmed, then it's going to be very difficult for the teacher to work with. So I'm glad you brought that point up. Okay, my next question is more of a general question. That's, how do you see the independent publishing industry today and perhaps in the future, and what was it that made you want to get involved in independent publishing?
Glenna, you want to?
Okay, well, the independent publishing field right now, I think, is kind of still in its, not really infancy, but childhood.
Okay.
And both Jenny and I are hoping that, as what happened when, remember what happened when desktop publishing came in? Everybody jumped in and started producing all kinds of horrible looking documents, newsletters, and whatever they needed to do. They looked just dreadful. And that, I think, is what we're going through now. We're not at the dreadful stage. We're slightly above that. But Jenny and I are both adamant that, or we're hopeful anyway, that all of our clients will use professional editing, professional proofreading, and a professional design, and if possible also a professional index. Those things just make all the difference. So we see things maturing. People are more agreeable to hiring professionals now, which is really good. So we're moving along, and I think that soon, hopefully soon, the independent publishers and the self-publishers, their books won't be, you won't be able to tell the difference between those and the ones that are published by the big publishers.
Exactly.
We're hoping that it's going to be true.
Yeah. The a common complaint that I hear from authors that I work with is that bookstores and libraries don't take them seriously. Distributors, major distributors such as Ingram, won't take them seriously because they are, you know, self-published. I prefer the term independently published. I think it adds a certain level of dignity, perhaps, to what we're trying to do. And I think that again, the democratization of publishing is a wonderful, wonderful thing, but it is a double-edged sword in that there are people out there who are not fully educated in what it is that publishing is and what it requires in terms of levels of excellence. And one of the things that I'm so excited about working with IPNE on is helping to educate independent publishers, people who are trying to take their first footsteps into this world of publishing and getting their ideas out there, and helping to educate them on really what is involved in the process. It goes beyond just the writing. I mean, the writing is obviously a crucial part of it, but it's not the only part of it. And so the more that authors and small publishers can understand about exactly how this process works and really what levels of what standards of excellence they need to be striving for is really, really important. So you know, it's a great thing, but there needs to be, as Glenna said, there needs to be a lot more in terms of education and outreach to new authors and new publishers on just exactly the best way of doing this.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. Okay, our next question is, how can an author or a small publisher best prepare a manuscript for a designer? What would you recommend?
Okay, I'll take that one.
Yeah.
There are several things, a lot of things you can do to make your designer happy. First thing is have your book edited, because it's very hard to design a book when you are holding your nose with one hand. I'm serious. Sometimes a book will end up looking beautiful but still read very poorly because it was not edited. So we will design a book for an unedited manuscript, but we don't really like to do it. So we beg you to please get a professional designer. I mean, editor. Okay. And the next thing you should do is go into your Word document and strip out any kind of fancy formatting you may have done, because we have to just take it out so that we can start over when we're using InDesign. That is the product that we use to design books. At least that's what I use. You use InDesign, don't you, Jenny?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Also, please take out any images you have stuck in there, and substitute a line that says add the picture of the dog here, because we can't deal with those images. What we need is the original images that you got wherever you got them from. That's what we need to work with.
Okay.
Yeah, and also make sure you take out any kind of queries that are in there, or if you've written notes to yourself, that kind of thing, take those out. So we need the final manuscript to work with.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Jenny, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I would also say with regards to images, it's great if you can also supply what I call an illustration manuscript or an image manuscript, which is basically just a list of the names of your images, any captions that you want to go along with those, and where exactly they should be placed in the book. I mean, a reference back to the actual note that you put within the manuscript as to, figure 6.7 goes here, and then in your illustration manuscript you would have figure 6.7 and all the information related to that. I would also want to stress, beyond editing, proofread. Obviously an editor is going to catch a lot of that, but they don't necessarily catch all of it. So if you can have an independent proofreader who is not yourself and not your editor, that is doubly fantastic. It's obviously not required. If you prefer to read it yourself, that's great, but definitely do it. I am constantly finding proofreading errors that I do fix as I go, but again, and I'm sure Glenna would agree with me, I'm not reading your book as I'm formatting it. I don't have time to do that. So if I happen to catch something, that's great, and I'll fix it. But if I don't, then it's going to go through and it's going to get printed and it's going to go out into the world like that. So please proofread.
Okay, great, thanks. And following on from that, how can an author tell if the image that they're giving to you is a good enough quality to print before kind of like sending it to you and having you go through the process of looking at it and saying it's not good enough quality? What should they look for?
Okay, I just found out a trick recently. I never knew this before. It involves arithmetic. So what you do is you look at your image. Sometimes when you're looking in your Finder or on your screen before you even open it up, it tells you what the pixels are, the pixel dimensions. You divide those pixel dimensions by 300, and that is how many inches your picture can be in the book. That's the maximum size. So for instance, if you have an image and it says it's 1500 by 1200 pixels, you divide that by 300 and you get 5 inches by 4 inches. And that's as big as it's going to be. If you're expecting a full page image out of that, you're not going to get it. So you need to go back and get a higher resolution image.
Okay, great, thank you. And Jenny, can you describe what's your process? What's a typical kind of process that you go through?
I work mostly with New England authors, which I prefer because I very much like to actually meet with somebody face to face when we're beginning the process of talking about their book. It helps me a lot to actually meet an author, be able to have a good discussion with them about their process, about their vision for their book. So usually for me, it will start with a face-to-face meeting, after which, based on our discussion, I will create a personalized quote for them. Based on how long the book's going to be, whatever images they want, whether or not I need to be finding those images or creating those images for them. If they want print production management assistance, I do that as well. I liaison with printers, I do print buying. So the quote will include any and all of that I've discussed with the author. Then once the quote has been agreed upon and we've signed a contract, I start with a sample chapter. I take a chapter from their manuscript, their final manuscript. Usually I try to find a chapter. It won't necessarily be the first one. I try to find something that includes pretty much all the elements that a final chapter is going to have. If there's images, if there's tables, if there are call-outs of the text, that sort of thing. So I will create a sample chapter based on the design that I've come up with, and which is then presented to the author for them to review. And they come back to me with any changes, corrections they want to have made, and usually we'll go back and forth maybe 2 or 3 times before we get it exactly the way they want it to be. Once that's been agreed upon, then I'll go ahead and format the rest of the book, or at least the rest of the chapters, and the author will then look at it as well. Hopefully they'll have an independent proofreader who's also looking at it. And while they're looking at the chapters, I will at that point start formatting the front and the back matter. Front matter being table of contents, forwards, any other information that happens at the beginning of the book, and also the back matter, which would be indexes, appendices, glossaries, any of that sort of thing, which the author will then also proofread and review. And sort of simultaneous with all this, I'll be working on a cover design. So which will usually take a little bit more time than the interior layout and design, just because it's basically your marketing piece. It's what is the first thing that the world is going to see before they ever open this book. So that tends to take a little bit longer. And then it pretty much all comes together once the proofreading has been finished, and a printer has been decided upon based on quotes that we've received from various printers. Then it goes to press, and hopefully within 5 to 6 weeks the author will have bound books in their hands and they can start to put them out in the world.
Wonderful. Glenna, anything you might want to add?
No, my process is almost exactly the same as Jenny's, so nothing to add there really. But I do think that sometimes people are confused. We talk about editors and proofreaders, and some people don't understand the difference. So I just like to explain that an editor gets to your book before it is designed, and that's what we're asking you to please give us an edited manuscript. And then a proofreader is a different person, as Jenny pointed out. It's a totally separate person who's never seen this book before. And the proofreader reads the proofs, which means that after the pages are laid out, the proofreader reads those pages. And the reason that is important is because in the layout process, different kinds of hyphenation have occurred, and the headings have been formatted and all, and the proofreader is supposed to be noticing whether maybe there are some mistakes in the hyphenation, in the heading styles, or in any of the styles that the layout person has put in there. That's part of what they're supposed to be looking at. And also the running heads at the top of the page, make sure that those match the right chapter that you're in and all that kind of thing. So it's very, very important to have a proofreader, and it's equally as important to have a proofreader who has never seen the book before, as I always want to emphasize that, because of course they're going to see things that nobody else has seen.
Right. Ah, fantastic, wonderful comment. And Glenna, you've written this wonderful book on book design made simple.
Yeah.
Could you mention a few things about the book? What inspired you to design it and to create it? And
Okay. Well, my co-author actually started the book quite a long time ago because she has been working for self-publishers for almost her entire career. And she would be getting the same questions over and over and over from every single author she dealt with. So she started writing emails to all these authors, and then she started compiling her emails and thought, hey, I could make a book out of this thing. So she started it, and then I met her several years later, and she was stalled on the thing. And meanwhile, I was teaching a class. I teach a self-publishing workshop. And I was teaching the class, and I kept telling my students, this book is coming out. You got to, just wait a little while. And then I realized poor Fiona, my co-author, was stuck because she had so much work that she didn't have time to complete the book. So finally she asked me to join her, and in the past 2-3 years, we finally finished the thing up. So
wonderful. And so pardon me?
It was her idea.
Okay, great. Well, it looks like a really nice book. I've leafed through it. I haven't had enough time to really look at it in depth, but it's very easy to work around and to kind of look up one step of the process, and very clear instructions, and of course, really nice layout. And for either of you, can you describe a project that you worked on that you've particularly enjoyed?
Let's see. Well, I worked on a very fat book for the Peabody Essex Museum one time.
Wow, that must have been fun.
It was really fun. I did not actually design it, but I did all the layout, and the thing was 700 and something pages. And it was a catalog of the Chinese export ceramics that they have there. They have a gigantic collection, and it's my favorite room in that museum. So I was thrilled to be working on this. And it was basically a museum catalog. And so that was the most fun book I think I ever worked on. I really loved that.
That sounds fantastic. Was there a large team of people working on that book, or was that?
I worked on it with it was a small team. There's a small group in Newburyport called Vern Associates, and they've now changed their name to Word Design, but Word Design Services, I think it is. They're right up the street from where Jenny is.
Wow, great.
But anyway, they were great to work with, and just working on an art book after 20, 30 years of working on college textbooks was just a blast.
I would imagine. It must have been incredible.
It was fun.
And Jenny, any particular projects that you recall
actually,
that were kind of fun?
I have a project I'm working on right now that I'm really, really enjoying, largely because of the author, who, aside from just being a genuinely lovely person, is probably one of the most organized and methodical authors that I've ever worked with. So in that respect, it's been pure pleasure because he's very organized, and he does exactly what I ask him to in terms of giving things to me, and so it's been a pure dream. My workload has been greatly reduced as a result of that, but he's also a fascinating person to know. He's a Korean War vet, and the book is a memoir of his time over there. And he is also an accomplished photographer, so there are quite a few photographs in the book that he took himself at the time. So and he had very, very specific and definite ideas of how he wanted it designed and laid out, and so it's just really been pure pleasure working with him. And I'm very excited to see it come out, and hopefully there will be some sort of an announcement soon as to when it might be available.
Okay, wonderful. And have either of you? I've been asking a lot of questions. Is there anything that you think might be important for anyone in the IPNE organization to know about book design that we haven't quite covered yet?
I would like to say that I do encourage about 99% of authors to hire a book designer or professional designer. But some authors are determined not to do this for cost reasons or control reasons, or else they are quite artistic themselves. And so I just want to give a little plug for my book, because these are the people we wrote this book for. It's a very small niche. And you can design your own book. If you are willing to lease Adobe InDesign by the month, you can have it for a couple months and do your book and then get rid of your lease, so it's not all that expensive. And if you if you're just familiar with using computers, our book tells you every single thing you need to know for the absolute beginner. So you can do it yourself, but most people should hire a professional.
Okay, great. Jenny, anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Buy Glenna's book; it's fantastic. But on top of that, I just want to give a little plug to IPNE itself. This is a fantastic organization for people in the New England area, and there are a lot of writers and authors and illustrators in the New England area who I think could really benefit from the resources available to them through IPNE. You know, aside from just getting in touch with vendors such as editors and proofreaders and designers, it's also just a fantastic networking opportunity to meet with other writers. You know, writing can be, I think, a kind of isolating pastime or career. And just being able to get out and talk with other people who are doing the same thing that you're doing is really, really important. So, you know, join IPNE and learn as much as you can.
Okay, great. Charlotte, did you want to
I
say
was
something?
typing a question in the chat. I didn't mean to intrude. I was just doing my screen sharing and stuff. But how do you deal with, say somebody's, you've given them a proof and they come back with lots of they all of a sudden see many changes that need to be done in the text, requiring major design intervention, or even moderate design intervention. I know I do InDesign, and it just drives me crazy when I have to reflow something, think about all the implications of a change that's been made.
Right, that's a good question, because it always happens. And so when I am dealing with a client, I always tell them ahead of time I'm going to be charging them by the hour for this kind of change.
Yes, yes, me too. But I also think, you know, that's one of the reasons that, you know, we include in our process a sample chapter, because hopefully a lot of that stuff is going to be caught during that process, so that we're not having to reflow an entire book. We're just dealing with making styles in one chapter to start
That's
with.
true.
Right.
Okay, and I'm not sure if you just asked this, Charlotte. I was focusing on something. How do you deal with gratuitous changes on the proof? That's pretty much the question. That was the question you asked. I just saw that right now. Okay, well, wonderful. It's been really a really nice experience for me. I know that my role here in IPNE is every day it's a new issue that I'm learning and a new challenge to face, and I am so grateful that IPNE exists. I'm aware of quite a few people now who are writing books, and they've expressed some sort of interest in getting help in figuring out the entire process of what's involved, from starting to write to finding proofreaders and editors and designers and bookbinders.
And you're on every Thursday.
Okay, and so next Thursday, Charlotte, we will have...
Oh, you're asking me a difficult question. Next Thursday it's on.
Oh. Charlotte?
Are we still on?
Oh,
well, she's gone, but I just want to say everybody should come to join IPNE, come to the conference. When I went last year, I was blown away by just meeting all kinds of wonderful authors, and the sessions were terrific, and everybody should come. It's amazing, and it's not such a big group that you could be intimidated. You can make new friends, and it's all very good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for mentioning that. The conference will be in mid to late October of 2016, and we have room for up to 100 people. And it was a fantastic experience last year. We also do book shows, and we always love to have people involved in one way or another on these Ask the Expert shows. Just contact us if you would like to share a little bit of expertise in your area of publishing. And we are working a lot of different projects, organizing volunteers for creating events, and for working on creating a resource base so that if you're working as an author, you can find editors who are working in your field or proofreaders who are working in your field, and vice versa. So we're trying to do a lot of networking and educational things, so please get in touch with us. We're looking forward to a really dynamic year. Sorry, Charlotte?
I came back. I did my famous trick of closing the window that I'm on, but February 11th is next week. It's on book launches.
That's right.
You know, so there's a lot of things that people forget, and one of them is like building in time to promote and create a splash when their book comes out. They get the book all done and everything is off the press. They have a box of them, and then they're going to launch it, and nobody knows about it. So we're going to have Connie Hambley is one of our members, successful author. She's got 2 books in a series done, and a trilogy, I think, and also Robin Stratton of the Newton Writing and Publishing Center, and an author, publisher of Big Table Publishing. So that's going to be a good one, and lots of, like Jenny, you were talking about last night, yesterday, the branding.
Good point.
You know, to think about, you know, your book cover, putting it on so that gets recognizable. You know, now when I see sort of a green and yellow thing, I think Book Design Made Simple. You know, it's really recognizable, and I've been more aware of it than some people maybe, but it does make a difference if you get that out there, and you never know who the person that's going to see it in that 2-second window and make it a success. So that's next week, Thursday the 11th at 10. But thank you all for being here.
Okay, thanks for organizing.
Charlotte, thank you, Kelly.
Okay, talk to you soon.
Okay.
And hope to hear lots of different people every Thursday at 10, from 10 to 11. Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.